I'd like to introduce at this time Lee Pepper, who is our National United We Stand America College Coordinator. And it's very appropriate for Lee to make the introduction of our keynote speaker today at lunch. Lee is a resident, or grew up, I should say, in the great state of Tennessee, went to the University of Tennessee, and as our National College Coordinator, it is his generation that will be most affected, and their pursuit of the American dream will be most affected by the pending health care reform and the debate around the health care reform. So, Lee.
Thank you. I want to thank each of you for being here today. It is so vitally important that we chart a course that my generation and future generations will be proud of. The energy and creativity of a viable college program is necessary. It is imperative that we reach out to the future leaders of this country and the future leaders of United We Stand America. When I graduated from the University of Tennessee, I left school with more concerns than hopes. The generation that graduates our high schools and our colleges today now face many troubling questions. The prospect of jobs, the threat of crime, the unraveling of families, and of course adequate health care and health insurance. The debates surrounding these questions are not detrimental to our society, but they prove now more than ever that Americans are demanding greater public involvement in the political process. The health care debate might be the defining issue of the 90s. It will certainly be my generation that will be affected the most. Today I have the privilege of introducing a man who was involved in health care issues long before they became fashionable. Congressman Jim Cooper, when first elected to the House of Representatives from Tennessee at the age of 28, became involved in rural health care issues that continue to dramatically affect our state. Congressman Cooper represents 22 rural counties in a district that stretches from Hardin County in West Tennessee through the Cumberland Plateau and up into Upper East Tennessee. 3 years ago, Congressman Cooper publicly announced that he would not accept any PAC money donations in his campaigns. He is a candidate today for the United States Senate in Tennessee's special election this year to fill Vice President Gore's Senate seat. As we have recently seen in the media, his managed competition model of health care reform is being widely discussed as a formidable alternative in the health care reform debate. We look forward to listening and learning more about his proposed plan today, and we are honored to have him with us. Ladies and gentlemen, please join with me in welcoming Congressman Jim Cooper of Tennessee.
Thank you so much, Lee, for that kind introduction and the warm welcome from the crowd. I'm delighted not only to be with Lee, but my fellow Tennesseans, Jerry Bryant, Jim Squires. If there are others in the room, I need to shake your hand before I leave here today. I'm delighted to be with this group, United We Stand. I'm from a small town in Tennessee called Shelbyville, Tennessee, which only has about 14,000 people. But I had the privilege of knowing the Perot kids growing up with some of the best riders on some of the best horses any of you have ever seen. And for those of you who are not familiar with the Tennessee walking horse industry, I would invite you to come, especially the 2 weeks before Labor Day, because we have then what's called the Tennessee Walking Horse National Celebration, one of the finest events that any of you could attend. When you talk to folks in towns like Shelbyville, Tennessee, and you listen to what they're saying, you realize for a long time now, people have had terrible problems dealing with the high cost of health care. In fact, it's the #1 cause of personal bankruptcy in states like Tennessee. You also realize that more and more of our people are unable to get health insurance at any price. And sometimes when it is available, it's so expensive, nobody can afford it. Not even a business that's doing a pretty good job of serving customers. You also realize that there's a lot of unfairness in the system. Some people are denied an insurance policy just because they had cancer. That's not their fault, but the policy is pulled anyway. And a lot of folks are locked into current jobs, afraid to move, because if they're uninsured even for a week or a month and get sick or injured during that time space, they may never be insurable again. And when you listen to people, you also listen to a lot of folks who are very satisfied with their current policy and who trust their current doctor maybe more than any other person in their whole life. So these folks usually don't come to the meetings, they don't usually complain, they're usually satisfied. But there's another group that doesn't come to meetings. They're not satisfied. Those are the folks who unfortunately have lost all hope. We're trying this year to put together a health care package, and as Lee mentioned, I've been doing this for years now. We've had a bill in place for 3 years. We're trying to establish a national consensus so that whoever you are, wherever you live, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, independent, or apolitical, you feel comfortable with the new health care reform system. We're trying to reject the partisanship of the past and try to build a new bipartisanship of the future. It's tough going, but we absolutely have to do this if we're going to get a bill through Congress. And even more important than that, we have to do this if health care reform is really going to work all across America, whether it's in a small town like Shelbyville, Tennessee, or whether it's in one of our nation's largest cities. Health care reform has to be flexible to meet the needs of the people. So far, in the health care reform debate, there's been a world of attention paid to it in the last couple of weeks. Our media friends have generated a lot more heat than light. I hope that we can lower the temperature in the discussion and have a lot more illumination, because these are complicated issues. We all need to stand back a little bit before we get upset or angry, try to work our way through these long bills. I have the shortest one. It's 292 pages long. It's the most boring bestseller in American history. There's another bill, the Chafee bill, it's about 600 pages long. And then there's the Clinton bill, which is 1,364 pages long. But we need to try to understand the mechanics of these bills to get under the hood of the car, figure out what works. That's what matters. You know, there's a very famous Texan, and like most great Texans, he was born in Tennessee. His name was Sam Rayburn, and as great a speaker as Tip O'Neill was, Sam Rayburn may have been the greatest speaker in this century, Speaker of the House of Representatives. And he had a saying. He used to say that any mule, or elephant for that matter, can kick a barn down. It takes a carpenter to build one. I've tried to be, and I know you've tried to be, in the carpentry business. Sometimes we mash our thumbs. None of us maybe are master carpenters, but we all need to be building structures that will last for the future, things that we'll be proud of for our kids and grandkids and great-grandkids. That's the role I've tried to play in the debate. Sometimes when you try to play that role, you come under heavy fire, but that's why we're on this earth, is to try to make it better for future generations. I think that President Clinton and the First Lady are absolutely right in their goals on health care reform. I think there is a health care crisis. I think that we do need a bill this year, and I think that the status quo is no longer sustainable. I know that special interests in Washington are already spending tens of millions of dollars trying to persuade us that there is no crisis, and offering plans that are not real health care reform. I think it's our job, and anyone's job who really cares about real reform, to follow the President's lead, to come up with a plan that will guarantee every American private health insurance that can never be taken away. The President and the First Lady, I think, deserve tremendous credit for their courage and leadership in this area. As the former Surgeon General, Dr. C. Everett Koop, has said, the Clintons have shown more leadership in health care reform than all of their living predecessors put together. This is a rare moment in American history, a moment in which real reform is possible, and I think it will happen in this year, 1994. I also want to acknowledge the contribution of some Texans in my health care plan. And really, I've gotten too much credit in the debate because there's a Houston Congressman named Mike Andrews who was there with me at the very beginning, as was Charlie Stenholm from Abilene, Texas. For 3 years, it was called the Cooper-Andrews-Stenholm bill. And unfortunately, the limelight has fallen primarily on me. But they were my original, and in my opinion, bravest co-sponsors. In the last presidential election, there was remarkable bipartisan harmony on the basic approach to health care reform. We saw for the first time Democrats and Republicans saying that one approach, managed competition, was the right way to go. Both Clinton and Bush agreed on that in the election. Just this week, our nation's 50 governors, on a bipartisan basis, said that managed competition is the way to go. Now, it is Congress's turn. I'm proud of the fact that our bill is closer to the governor's views than any other bill. I think what the governors found this week is what we discovered 3 years ago. Because through 2 Congresses now, our bill has literally been the only bipartisan approach. Health care is a giant issue. It's $930 billion wide. It's 14% of our gross national product. But the middle ground, the national consensus on this issue, may only be 1 inch wide. I think we've found that middle ground. That's why I sometimes call myself President Clinton's seeing eye dog. What is managed competition, and how has it broken the partisan gridlock that has stopped action in Washington for so many years? It's an approach designed by the so-called Jackson Hole group of business leaders and healthcare experts. We modified that approach after talking to literally thousands of Tennesseans, in my case, and my colleagues consulted with folks all over this great country. We talked to regular folks. We talked to health experts. We worked with a group called American Healthcare Systems, a not-for-profit hospital chain, as we put together our bill. Managed competition is an approach that is being field tested today and has been in various forms for many years all across America. It's currently working in Minnesota and in California, in Florida and in Washington State. They've just passed it. In 150 cities across America, it's being tested in various forms. Places like Memphis, Tennessee, which has had a working version of it for 8 or 9 years now. Places like Cincinnati, Ohio, Rochester, New York, Orlando, Florida. And let's not forget that 9 million federal employees have had an early version of managed competition for almost 30 years now. And even the Heritage Foundation says it's one of the best government programs ever. Managed competition has broken partisan gridlock by combining the best features of market competition